All right, so I'm COO at Advantages, which is a technology company for fan engagement in sports and entertainment based in Monaco. And other than that, I work with regulators and financial institutions in Israel and around the world regarding everything that has to do with fintech and growing, I'd say, with the speed of technology and kind of adapting to the changes that are happening around us. And I'm going to be, opening this kind of with explaining what tokenization is and how it's affecting the future of the financial services. And I'm going to be kind of like closing with talking a little bit about central bank digital currencies. Let's see if the presentation is also going to cooperate with me. All right, a little bit about myself. I'm a veteran of 19 years in the fields of the technology and finance, combining the two for over a decade before it was actually named Fintech. I was a product manager and business development manager of one of the biggest security trading websites in Israel for 7 years. And since then, I've been COO of various technology companies in the fields of blockchain and financial technology. Originally, I was a programmer, and then I became an investment consultant. If we're talking about diversity, I'm the Israeli ambassador to EWPN, the European Women in Payment Network. And during, I should have said that during 2020, I was actually chosen as one of the 100 most inspirational women in blockchain. So I guess that's also kind of an achievement. And I'm going to kind of like to delve in and speak about tokenization. And you can't talk about tokenization without kind of having a macro kind of look at what's happening. And what we're seeing, if we're kind of like scoping out a little bit, is that there are various forces that are actually shaping the financial sector and the future of money, banking, and everything that has to do with economy. And if we're looking at tokenization, it kind of like touches upon two major forces. One of them is the accelerated technological developments, specifically blockchain and smart contracts and everything that has to do with it. And this technology kind of like enables creating a new kind of financial world with kind of, I'd say, digital assets by various parties. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So I'm going to open with the question, what is tokenization? I can say that, the answer to that has kind of like to do with, there are two answers to this. The short answer would be, it's the next generation of investments, money, and capital markets, and, kind of like stock exchanges 2.0. And all of them advancing into the 21st century. But the long answer is actually kind of like, I'd say, it means converting any physical and non-physical asset, even illiquid assets like real estate and art, and we're going to go into that, and encapsulating their value to be represented by a digital token that can be actually traded like any security and traded on blockchain, which is kind of like a new concept, and it has its advantages. And but before I go and a little bit deeper into what can be done with tokenization and these new kind of assets, I'd like to say that tokenization, first of all, didn't begin with blockchain and cryptocurrencies, though, because the concept has actually been around since the 1970s as data security mechanisms for the financial services. And what started out as, like, in the 70s, having sensitive information like personal credit card numbers and financial statements replaced with tokens, which are like strings of digital letters and numbers, kind of like developed into the blockchain tokenization, which we're going to be talking about today, where it's kind of different, where we take tokens and tokenizing, I'd say, not only data, but rather physical elements and physical assets, and turning them into something that can be traded, just like stocks and bonds and all the rest of them. Now, this concept is kind of growing, popular, after having been very popular with I'd say, the cryptocurrency space for the last couple of years. But what we're seeing is that lately it's beginning to take the financial the financial world by storm, and we can see that in the last couple of months. And we're seeing financial institutions around the world kind of becoming serious about adopting these kinds of blockchain-powered approaches to investing. If we're looking at tokenization, we can see that I started saying that any asset can be turned into a token, and I think that one of the nicest examples is art or real estate, where traditionally right now, let's say if retail investors want to invest in them, they have a hard time kind of like buying a Rembrandt picture. But with with the idea of tokenization and the idea of taking an asset and dividing it into small pieces and putting it on a blockchain, you can actually break, I'd say, big assets, again, liquid assets, into fractions of their value, and thus, turning them to become liquid. So let's say if we're taking this picture of Rembrandt, the owner could, let's say, decide that he takes 10% of 20% of it as, and create a digital asset out of it, and enable, people to trade around the world with these little pieces of the asset that he's created. Now, the valuation would be just like in any stock or any security that we know, and it would be provided by the crowd. And investors, that don't have the funds and the ability to buy a whole Rembrandt, or, invest in art and in a Rembrandt, could actually buy it's like shares of this Rembrandt. And they could create revenue by holding on to it, and then the expected value would go up and down. And let's say when the investor, like say when the art owner will want to sell the item, they could actually gain from the value, or I'd say the raise in the value of from the price that this piece of art is going to be bought by the next collector. So that's one side of I'd say of tokenization, and the other side of it is actually, if we're looking at it, is that there are going to be new types of asset classes that can be created with this idea of creating tokens that are on the blockchain while using smart contracts and the technology that we have around us. I'm kind of like summing up because I don't have a lot of time and I want to let the other speakers bring the good examples, but there are a lot of advantages with working with I'd say tokenization. It's kind of like perceived also as a game changer in the fields of finance, and it has to do with, I'd say, with the inherent advantages that the technology itself has. So first of all, there's greater security on blockchain, and there's increased transparency. And the markets, if we're moving onto blockchain, they're going to be available 24/7, and you can have same-day settlements, no more T+1 or T+2 for clearing that all of us know. And the accounting can be done up to date between the trading participants and the registry and the exchanges themselves. Everything can be done online immediately without need to wait for things to move around the world. And as I said, breaking up big assets that have been liquid until now can allow, I'd say, new investors or retail investors to come in and join in and invest in assets that they couldn't otherwise reach. I'm not going to go into many examples, but because I'm sure that the next speakers would like to delve into this, but we can see around the world, I'd say, different examples of how real estate is being tokenized, and artwork as well. We're also seeing exchanges around the world, like the traditional exchanges, talking about moving their own security trading exchanges into blockchain-based trading systems. So if we're looking at how, I like looking on macro level. If we're looking at how, technology can be affecting, in a ripple effect, many different aspects, I think that looking at blockchain and cryptocurrencies and watching the effect that they're having, and just actually beginning to have on the capital markets, I think this is a really good example of how how technology and innovative technology can move things along. So I'm going to hand the microphone back to you.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much.
Just a second, let me get out of this, and I'll stop sharing.
Thank you. That was brilliant.